You're Dr. Colin Crombie, senior resident of the Fulchester South Hospital.
That's correct.
Dr. Crombie, could you please describe to us the events that happened on the night of November the 3rd last?
I was called to examine a patient, Charles Laker, who'd been admitted earlier. He was in a state of complete collapse. He seemed to be in great pain and was experiencing difficulty in breathing. In spite of immediate treatment, his condition rapidly got worse. He was admitted to the intensive care unit. 2 hours later, he died.
Dr. Crombie, during this time, did Mr. Laker have the opportunity to explain his condition to you?
Yes. Given oxygen, he recovered sufficiently to be able to talk briefly. He told me he'd been bewitched.
Today in Fulchester Crown Court, Adelaide Vincent stands accused of the manslaughter of Charles Laker. It is alleged that, being the maiden or leader of a witch coven, she did curse his life, thereby bringing about conditions that directly or indirectly led to his death.
He said that for some time now he'd been a member of a local witchcraft coven, and the previous evening the maiden or leader had put a curse on him, and this was the sole reason for his physical condition.
I see, Doctor. And what confidence did you place on this diagnosis exactly?
Well, I thought it was nonsense, obviously. Yet I'm bound to say now that despite the continued efforts of a skilled survival team, Charles Laker died 2 hours after making that claim. And none of us at the hospital can suggest a medical reason why.
But let's be reasonable, Doctor. Charles Laker must have died from some identifiable physical cause.
Well, if you mean that the heart stopped, respiration ceased, and deoxygenation of the brain took place within minutes, yes, my lord. But these are the physical conditions that accompany every death. For doctors, it's a matter of what might cause these conditions.
Yes, I see. And in Laker's case, you could establish nothing?
Nothing at all, my lord.
That's very odd, Doctor.
Extremely. That seems to be the point, in fact.
Continue, please, Miss Tate.
My lord? Now, we've already had introduced as evidence the pathologist's report relating to the post-mortem conducted on Charles Laker. You are familiar with that, Dr. Crombie?
Naturally.
It would seem to bear out your contention that nothing precise can be established concerning the cause of death.
Yes. Considering the symptoms that Laker had exhibited, the pathologist at first tested for the presence of poison, possibly of a gradual, non-corrosive nature, but there was no evidence of anything like that, nor was there any internal lesion that mightn't at first have revealed itself. Laker's was, in fact, an extremely healthy body for a man of his years.
Did you see Charles Laker's medical record later?
Yes, it was forwarded to us by his GP.
And did it confirm your judgment that he was a thoroughly healthy man?
Oh, no doubt of it. The history was right up to date. There'd been a physical examination not 3 months earlier. Laker was a careful man who seems to have insisted on biannual checkups.
What, in fact, was entered on the death certificate for Charles Laker, Dr. Crombie?
Why, cardiac failure following survival treatment that didn't succeed.
And as the doctor who observed Charles Laker when he died, were you entirely happy with this entry?
Well, not entirely, no. Scientifically, of course, there's very little else one could say. But, well, it seems that death by cursing may be possible.
Why do you say that, Doctor?
There's a growing medical opinion to that effect. My interest in the matter stems from the fact that at Fulchester South nowadays we have to deal very largely with members of the immigrant community.
You speak of a growing medical opinion, Doctor. But how large a body of opinion would this be, do you think?
Oh, in this country, very small, my lord. The journal Medicine, Science and the Law recently published an article detailing the experiences of doctors working with very much the same cross-section of the public as I am. The article was, well, disturbing. Its conclusion seemed to be that, in certain cases anyway, we might have to accept death by cursing as a medical and legal reality.
What exactly is the status of this journal, Medicine, Science and Law, Dr. Crombie?
It's the official organ of the British Academy of Forensic Sciences.
I see. Now, in countries other than Britain, does medical knowledge in your opinion, accept the possibility of death by cursing.
Oh, yes. Doctors who worked in Africa will tell you it happens frequently enough. The same is true of parts of Asia and the Pacific Islands. Medical men have even reported cases in New Zealand among the Maoris, who, comparatively speaking, are highly civilized people.
Is it then your professional opinion, Dr. Crombie, that Charles Laker could have died as a result of a curse put on him by a supposed witch?
Well, I know that Charles Laker told me that a curse had been put on him. I also know there is no medical reason why he should be dead today.
Thank you, Dr. Crombie, that's all.
Dr. Crombie, supposing we allow for one moment that in certain curious cases death by cursing might actually be possible, how would it operate exactly? Can you tell us?
Operate?
What would be the mechanism? The medical mechanism, Doctor? I mean, curse isn't a physical cause of death, is it? Like the edge of a blade, a poisoned dart?
Well, I suppose the mechanism would be that the curse implants some sort of dread in the mind of the subject, which in due course leads to a deterioration of health.
But why?
Why?
Yes, why? If I announced that, contrary to appearances, I was in fact a witch doctor, and I put a curse on you, well, presumably the effect would be negligible, and yet with certain other people it wouldn't be. Now, why? Is the curse real, actually effective?
No, of course not. That's mumbo-jumbo.
Then why? Are the people concerned of a special type, perhaps?
Well, naturally, they would have to be of a type who subscribe to the superstitions concerned.
Susceptible people, in other words.
Yes, if you like.
Was Charles Laker a susceptible person?
Well, how on earth can I answer that?
Come, Doctor, you've had his medical history. You've told us that he insisted on biannual checkups.
Yes.
Overdoing things a little, isn't it?
I don't think so.
I've
Careful.
also made a note that he visited his doctor a good deal over complaints that turned out to be entirely imaginary. Suspected slip disc, October 72. Suspected hernia, March 73.
Well, some people are like that. Every doctor has to deal with one or two.
Yes, exactly. The hypochondriacs.
I didn't say that.
Oh, come, Doctor. Surely you'd agree that Charles Laker was a hypochondriac.
I didn't know the man until he was seriously
You must have
ill.
known that he worried unnecessarily about his health. And you must know, too, that hypochondria has close affinities with the mechanism of death by cursing.
I don't agree with that at all.
Simple autosuggestion in both cases.
That's absurd oversimplification.
Please, Doctor, either a man is killed by something you can put a name to, or he kills himself. No two ways about it. Bad science makes for worse law.
You appear to be making some inept reference to the medical syndrome known as psychosomatism. But psychosomatism begins from within the person. Death from cursing has its origins outside the individual. The subject doesn't want to die, you know. But the curse is pronounced, and for some reason or other that we don't understand, he does die.
Yes. Thank you, Doctor. No further questions.
Miss Tate,
No further questions, my lord.
you may stand down, Doctor.
I call John Terry Saxon, my lord.
John Terry Saxon, please.
What is your religion?
Siri.
Take the testament in your right hand and read aloud the words on this card.
I swear by Almighty God, the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
You're John Terry Saxon, and you live at 42 Bread Lane, Fulchester Central.
That's right.
How are you employed, Mr. Saxon?
I'm a journalist on the Fulchester Record.
Are you acquainted with the accused, Adelaide Vincent?
Yes, you could say we've met on socially.
Shortly before his death, did you also meet the deceased in this case, Charles Laker?
That's right, too. I met Laker as a result of a phone call I received at the record office on October the 20th last. It was a man who would only say that he was an accountant who worked locally and that he had a sensational news story for me if I was interested. We arranged to meet the following night at a pub called the Jug and Bottle in the Brightly Junction area.
And did you keep this appointment, Mr. Saxon?
At 8 p.m. Yeah, it was a weird place to meet an accountant, a tiled navvies pub. Well, you know Brightly Junction. Laker was hiding behind a belted raincoat and a pint of mild. I spotted him as a social refugee straight off.
What did Mr. Laker have to tell you?
He said he was a member of a local witchcraft coven led by a woman, and that there was to be a meeting of this coven, rather like a sex orgy as he described it, coming up on October the 31st, and there'd be some prominent people involved. And that if I liked, he'd see that I got a grandstand seat for it, provided we were prepared to guarantee him absolute anonymity.
Why do you think he made that stipulation, Mr. Saxon?
He was scared stiff. It was obvious in his every move. He said it was imperative I guaranteed him anonymity. He seemed to be terrified what might happen to him if he was found out. He seemed to be frightened for his life.
I see, Mr. Saxon. So Charles Laker told you of some kind of sex orgy that was due to take place on the night of October the 31st and offered to provide you with its location, hour, and so on. Is that correct?
That's right.
In the belief that it would all make a sensational newspaper story for you.
Well, wouldn't it? I mean, especially if he was right about the mayor and corporation being involved. I mean, I could even see the Nationals.
My lord, I must object.
Yes, indeed. Mr. Saxon, you must be most careful what you say in that connection.
Oh, I didn't mean the mayor and corporation literally, my lord.
Oh, well, I'm delighted to hear it. Miss Tate, perhaps the court should be given some indication at this point of exactly how much naming of names you think is likely to be strictly necessary.
Well, as things have turned out, my lord, remarkably little. I had hoped to call in evidence other members of the coven, but in the event it has proved practically impossible to identify them.
Impossible to identify them?
Yes, my lord.
But how do you mean exactly?
Well, apparently they attend meetings masked and address each other by pseudonyms. The accused is apparently known as Hecate. Another coven member I have managed to identify is known as Demeter. Charles Laker was Aron, an ancient Celtic wizard, my lord.
Yeah, undoubtedly, yeah. But, well, the identities of the coven members must have been known to the, what is it she calls herself, the maiden? I mean, how else were they enrolled in the first place?
Well, your lordship raises a shrewd point, but unhappily we lack information on it at the moment. Perhaps we can hope for enlightenment later.
I see. Very well, continue then, Miss Tate.
My lord? Mr. Saxon, in offering to make you privy to the activities of the witch coven, did Mr. Laker expect any sort of reward from you?
You mean, did he ask for any money, a payoff?
Yes, well, it's not unusual, is it?
No, but Laker wasn't like that. All through our talk in the jug and bottle, he just struck me as, well, just being anxious to get something off his chest. It was as though he was guilty about the experiences he'd had in the coven, and that he just wanted to expose them to me to clear his conscience.
Did he say to you at any point that his conscience was troubled?
He said all his life he'd tried to be moral, only members of the coven weren't. They were all only in it for the sex, and he hated that.
I see. Now, you've told us that Charles Laker gave you the time and place of this particular coven meeting on October the 31st. Did you, in fact, attend?
Secretly, yes. The venue was in a clearing in the Rillingford Forest. I got there about 10 to hide myself, and things were due to start at 11. After a while, various coven members began to show up. They were wearing domino masks on their faces, so I couldn't recognize them, and long white druid-type garments. I recognized Laker from his dumpy figure. Anyway, a fire was lit, and a tall woman stepped forward and started to read a chant from a book. Part in English, I think, part in Latin. She wasn't wearing a mask.
Do you see that same woman in court today?
Yes, yes. Over there, Adelaide Vincent.
I see. Carry on, please.
Well, after a while, the group, the crowd, whatever they're called, began to respond to this chant. There were about 20 people altogether, about 14 men, 5 or 6 women. The responses were not words, they were just sounds, sighs and groans. And then they all started to revolve in a circle around the fire, rather like a dance. And then it got faster and people started to take their clothes off.
And what did you do then, Mr. Saxon?
I started taking pictures, of course. I'm a newspaper man. But the firelight must have reflected off the lens or something. I don't know. Anyway, I was spotted. A half-naked young woman shrieked, jabbed a finger in my direction, and before you could say double, double, toil and trouble, 2 hefty specimens had raced over to where I was hiding, grabbed me and thrust me out into the clearing up in front of the maiden, the accused, that is.
And how did the coven members react to this?
Oh, they gasped like faulty traction engines and head off for the dark in the bushes. I got the distinct impression that they didn't relish the idea of a stranger being able to recognize them from their birthmark on their right shoulder or whatever.
And the accused?
Well, she just looked at me as if I was something the cat had dragged up. She snatched my camera away and tore the film from it. The Fulchester record was plastered all over the camera, so she didn't need to ask who I was or what I was doing there. She just demanded to know how I'd found out where the coven was taking place.
And you replied?
Well, at this point, I'd like to say that I didn't know too much about witches and covens. They may have even turned vicious
Please,
on me.
Mr. Saxon, what did you reply?
Well, I didn't see why I should sweat alone, so I dropped poor Laker in it.
You mean you told the accused that Charles Laker had supplied you with the whereabouts of this particular coven meeting and suggested that you might find the proceedings interesting? I see. And what was the accused's reaction to this?
She went white. All the colour drained from her face. She shouted, "Find her on! Find her on!" Just like that. A minute later, Laker was hustled up, shaking like a jelly, protesting innocence. She tore the mask from his face and announced he'd betrayed the coven, and she had no further choice but to curse his life.
To curse his life. Now, was this the exact expression she used?
Her actual words were, "This man is an intruder, but you have betrayed Hecate. You shall both be cursed as to the life, the blood, the house, and the hearth."
I see. Thank you. And then what happened?
Well, I was given the rush, handed back what was left of my camera, and thrust into the outer darkness. The last I saw of Laker, he was on his knees in front of the accused, pleading with her not to curse him. She was looking at him with a face like stone.
You saw Charles Laker begging the accused not to curse him?
Over and over again. I thought he was acting like a fool at the time, but there, maybe he knew something I didn't.
Thank you, Mr. Saxon.
Now, Mr. Saxon, is the point of the matter that on October the 31st you failed to identify any of the supposedly prominent members of the witchcraft coven?
Yeah, that's what I said. They were all wearing domino masks, and such pictures as I'd managed to get had been destroyed.
Which is obviously the reason why nothing ever appeared in the Fulchester record about it, correct?
Well, my editor said, what had I got? A half-baked story about some people dancing starkers round a fire in the wood. It might add up to a silly season feature on naturism, but it didn't add up to a juicy scandal.
No sex orgies, in other words.
It was early days when I got the shove, mind. I mean, maybe later when they got
No,
more.
Mr. Saxon, we aren't concerned with later, nor with earlier, nor with anything except what you can positively testify to, and you can't testify to any sex orgies, can you?
No, I guess I can't.
No, thank you. Now, you tell us that when you left the coven meeting on October the 31st, Charles Laker was on his knees before the defendant, pleading with her over and over not to curse him.
That's right.
Now, how about yourself? Weren't you similarly disposed?
Me?
Yes, well, unless I misheard your testimony, you were to be cursed as well, weren't you? Yes. You shall both be cursed as to the life, the blood, the house, and the hearth. Were you cursed too, do you think?
Damned if I know.
You mean you wouldn't care if you had been?
Of course not. I don't go in for all that codswallop.
So that's your understanding of things. The curse works if you believe in it, fails if you don't.
I object, my lord. Counsel is eliciting an opinion from the witness.
Yes, Mr. Lotterby, you know better than that.
My lord, I'm simply anxious to point out that Mr. Saxon appears to have been cursed along with Charles Laker. Well, if counsel for the prosecution is insistent that the curse was effective in the case of Charles Laker, then I feel we should ask ourselves why it was not so in the case of Mr. Saxon.
Yes, perhaps, Mr. Lotterby, perhaps. But at the proper time, and certainly not in this manner.
Mr. Saxon, you find yourself in perfect health at this moment, do you?
Perfect, yes.
You've been in good health for some time.
Yes.
At any time between the dates October the 31st and November the 2nd, did you suffer any sickness or decline in your usual high standard?
As I recall, on the morning of November the 2nd, I did feel a bit here and there.
Yes?
I bumped into a few old chums the night before, and I told them of my experiences at the hands of a witch. It seemed to make us remarkably thirsty.
Yes, I see. No further questions.
Will we stand down, Mr. Saxon?
I call Anne Silk, my lord.
Anne Silk, please.
You are Anne Silk and you live at Haddersley Mansions, Bellinggrove, Fulchester.
That's right.
What is your employment, Miss Silk?
Oh, I do different things. Modelling. I've appeared on television once or twice. A bit of local broadcasting.
You're basically in the entertainments business.
Yes.
Are you also a member of the Fulchester Witch Coven?
I shouldn't have been asked to come to court. It's not fair. What I do with my private life is...
Miss Silk, you must answer the question. Are you a member of the Fulchester Witchcraft Coven or not?
Yes.
You?
Actually, I'm the main assistant to the maiden, Hecate. Adelaide Vincent, that is. I'm called Demeter.
Thank you, Miss Silk. And how long have you been a coven member?
2 years.
What made you join?
Well, I'd always been interested in that sort of thing. You know, mysteries, the occult. But people have the wrong idea of witches. They think it's all old crones standing over steaming pots, breathing hatred and wickedness everywhere. But it's not like that at all. It's nature, really. Getting back to the forces of nature that people these days ignore or don't care about. Natural things.
Do you believe in magic, Miss Silk?
I believe that if you serve the forces of nature, then the forces of nature serve you. Yes.
Now, what does it mean to be the maiden of the coven?
Well, all covens are founded round a witch with real power. It can be a man or a woman. If it's a woman, she's called the maiden.
In this coven is Adelaide Vincent, the witch with real power?
Oh, yes. Her power can be frightening sometimes. I've seen it. At Sabbats.
At Sabbats. Now, what are they exactly? Are they special coven meetings?
Yes, they're very special meetings. They occur a few times a year.
I see. What happens then?
Well, all that's secret. I'm not supposed to talk about that.
I'm afraid you will have to, Miss Silk. If the information is relevant to the case, the court has a right to insist upon it.
Let me put the question in another way, Miss Silk. Have you ever at these Sabbats had or been required to have sexual relations with any of the men present?
Yes. She makes us. She calls up the devil, and then she makes us worship him in the devil's way. Poor Charles Laker knew that. That's why he wanted to make it public. And that's why he died. That's why she killed him.
I just don't know what to do with myself. Just don't know what to do with myself. I'm so used to doing everything with you, planning everything for two, and now that we're through, I just don't know what to do with my time. I'm so lonesome for you, it's a crime.
I see, Miss Silk. So sexual relations occurred at these Sabbats or important coven meetings?
Yes, the Feast of Beltane. That's May the 1st. Midsummer. The Feast of Samhain. That's the end of October. October the 31st.
And female members were required to cooperate?
The assistants, anyway.
How many assistants exactly?
6.
But surely, according to a testimony we've just heard, that must be the entire female complement.
Yes, it was.
No other women in the coven apart from the assistants, and all of them required to participate in sexual activities.
Yes.
I see. Now you tell us that Charles Laker, knowing of all this, wanted to make the fact public.
Yes, that's right.
Now the court has already learned that he in fact contacted a journalist, but how do you know of this desire?
Well, he told me, well, as good as. We weren't supposed to know one another's identities, but he spoke to me once. It was after the first Grand Sabbat that he came to. He was shocked by what he'd seen. He said it shouldn't be allowed to happen like that it should be stopped.
Did you agree with him about that, perhaps?
Well, I always did what the maiden said. I didn't like it much, maybe.
Miss Silk, on the evening of November the 1st, did you go to the home of Adelaide Vincent in Fulchester South, and was there a particular reason for this visit?
Yes. Adelaide asked me to go to her home to assist her with a cursing ceremony.
What is that exactly, and why was it taking place?
Well, A cursing ceremony is when you put a spell on someone because they've sinned against Hecate.
Now, Hecate, that is, in fact, Adelaide Vincent.
Well, no, I mean, the maiden only takes the name if she wants to. The real Hecate is the goddess of witches.
Ah.
It can be a minor spell or a major one, causing the person just to be sick, say, or to die. On November the 1st, Adelaide pronounced a life curse against Charles Laker.
Why?
Well, the night before there'd been a grand sabbat, and Charles had told a newspaper man about it. That's a great sin, which may not be forgiven.
Miss Silk, what precise form does this life-cursing ceremony take?
Well, I'd never been to one before. They're held secretly, usually with just the witch and one witness present, in this case me. There have to be black candles and a fire of embers. Some incantations are read out, and then wax is melted over the embers and moulded into a figure of the person. Then long spikes or pins are pushed through the figure, through the part of the body you want to be affected.
And in this case?
The chest.
I see. Miss Silk, was it your belief that this cursing ceremony would have any actual effect on Charles Laker?
Well, I didn't know. I mean, I said I'd never been to one before. But I believed in Adelaide's power.
Well, surely you were at fault then in assisting her on such a venture.
I wasn't free, truly.
Thank you, Miss Silk, that's all.
Miss Silk, you give us the impression that, although it is apparently unusual for coven members even to be aware of each other's identity, you got to know Charles Laker quite well.
Oh, no, I never said anything like that.
You seem to have talked to him in some depth. He told you of things that troubled him, anyway. You must have been able to form some impression of what kind of a man he was. What was he like, would you say? Sanguine? Overconfident?
Oh, no, quite the opposite to that. He was unsure of himself, shy, especially with women.
Charles Laker was shy with women?
Yes. He told me that time that he'd never married, that he was, well, old-fashioned about women. I think that's why he was so shocked by the sex at the grand sabbats. He just didn't approve of sex. He thought it was evil.
Just as you think it evil too, Miss Hill.
What?
Well, you testified that at the grand sabbats, when the maiden calls up the devil, she makes you worship him in the devil's way.
No.
Meaning in this context, bisexual acts?
No. Well, what I was trying to say was being forced to do it. Well, that's what makes it the devil's work.
Miss Silk, would you have called Charles Laker a nervous man?
Yes, that'd be right. He was very tense and jumpy.
Impressionable? When at the grand sabbat on October the 31st, Charles Laker was told he was going to be cursed, what visible effect did this have on him?
He was scared stiff. He got down on his knees and he pleaded with her not to do it.
Pleaded?
Begged. I mean, really.
Miss Silk, you believe in the maiden's power, don't you? You've said so.
I do, yes.
And you also believe there is a causal connection between her cursing him and Charles Laker's death. You've virtually said that too.
Well, I mean, Charles is dead, isn't he? And no one seems to know why.
Then, Miss Silk, believing as you do, aren't you taking the most fearful risk coming here today and testifying?
What do you mean by that?
What the maiden has done to Charles Laker. Presumably she can do to you.
Adelaide wouldn't dare. I mean, not when it's all open and public like
Miss
this.
Silk, you don't honestly believe she could harm you anyway, do you?
I do.
You don't go along with all this cursing, all that rubbish. You're not afraid of Adelaide Vincent. You're just jealous of her.
Jealous?
Of her position. You like to see her safely out of the way so that you could take over as maiden of the coven.
Well, I mean, that's the most ridiculous thing I've...
How is it you're here today anyway, Miss Silk? Were you sought out from the mists of your anonymity by the police? Or did you not come forward of your own free will?
I came forward of my own free will.
When others wouldn't?
I thought that there were things that needed to be said.
And now you're quite prepared to pay the dread penalty of sinning against Hecate. I see. Those sex orgies of the sabbats, Miss Silk, they never really happened, did they?
They did.
Oh, there was some sex, I've no doubt, but only on the part of certain individuals acting independently. No orgies. Nobody forced to it.
There were orgies. Well, Charles Laker wanted to expose them.
Poor, impressionable Charles Laker, who seems to have been shocked at the very fact of sex. Miss Silk, do you still say Adelaide Vincent commanded 6 orgies at those sabbats?
Yes. Yes, of course I do. Adelaide couldn't risk Charles Laker talking. She has power. And by the means of it, she killed him.
You're the Reverend Felix Garmansway, a priest of the Church of England and currently attached to the Missionary Society of St. Chad, Fulchester.
I am.
Have you also spent some time on missionary work in Central Africa and written books on the subject of witchcraft?
I was in Africa for 15 years, and my books, which come out of that experience, are entitled Powers of Darkness and The Mark of the Beast.
Father Garmansway, do you believe in witchcraft as a real power?
I certainly do.
Now let us be quite clear about this. You believe that certain persons, by cultivating what are commonly known as the black arts, can influence the forces of nature and even how other people behave.
Yes, I do.
Would you explain that to the court, please?
It's not easy. Witchcraft is really a survival into the present day of what is sometimes known as the old religion. That is, the religion of animism or belief in spirits, out of which all other religion develops. Spirits are life forms distinct from matter with certain limited powers over it. The witch or witch doctor, as it were, taps this spiritual power to produce the effects he desires.
Yes, the difficulty there, Father Garmansway, of course, would be that one would have to accept your belief in spirits.
The difficulty may rather be, my lord, that one is hard put to explain certain observed phenomena without accepting a belief in spirits.
You have observed phenomena, have you not, that in your view can be explained in no other way than as a result of witchcraft?
Indeed, I have.
Can you give us some example of the kind of things you mean?
Oh, I've seen objects move from one place to the other, rendered weightless and made to float in air. I've seen fires started without flame or spark. And I've seen healthy men, cursed by a witch doctor, simply lie down and die in spite of all the efforts of skilled medical men to save them.
Now, will you tell the court about this latter phenomenon, Doctor?
One moment, Father Garmansway. Before you do that, will you tell me whether you mean that these things you are going to tell us about actually happened, or whether they merely appeared to happen to the people who were present?
It's fairly hard to imagine a fire at your feet which 2 minutes ago simply wasn't there, my lord. I experienced that.
Yes. I must say that what strikes me as odd about these phenomena, as you choose to call them, is that in 9 cases out of 10, they appear to be absolutely pointless.
Fortunately, evil spirits appear to have only limited powers over matter, my lord. Therefore, they harass more than positively harm.
Evil spirits. Now, you strike a difference between evil spirits and good spirits, as in the Middle Ages?
By their fruits you shall know them.
Yes, I think we can do without the texts for the times, Father.
My meaning really is, my lord, that there is black magic and white magic. White magic is, well, holiness, you might say, the fruit of sanctity. Saints down the ages have always contrived to produce similar effects, but of course beneficial ones, healing people, averting disasters.
Yes, but surely in Christian belief they do these things through the power of God.
Exactly, my lord. God being the supreme spirit, the life source of all other spirits.
And the evil spirit?
Christian tradition has always testified to an aboriginal calamity in which it appears that certain spirits separated themselves from God. Now, this separation was final and irrevocable, so that up to the present day, these spirits war with the good. Their leader is the Prince of Evil himself, Satan, sometimes called the devil.
Father Garmansway, you are not going to tell this court that you believe in the existence of the devil.
My lord, one of the devil's most ancient titles is the father of lies. It is he who desires that people should not believe in him. It is when he is forgotten, that is when he does his best work. When his servants, the practitioners of black arts most perfectly perform his will. "10 years ago, in Africa, there was a young man of my acquaintance, highly educated, who had broken with the superstitions of his tribal people and become a Christian. He was outspoken in his denunciation of heathen practices, particularly that of life cursing. But one day he heard that in fact the witch doctor of his tribal village had put a curse on him. He sickened, and despite the ministrations of highly qualified doctors and my own ministrations as a priest, died within 48 hours. To the end, he insisted that he was not suffering from the effects of the curse and had merely caught a chill from which he would soon recover."
Thank you, Father Garmondsway. And do you believe that this young man was telling you the truth?
I know he was. He was a very conscientious person, always trustworthy.
So you're saying, are you, that a person need not be particularly susceptible by nature to suffer the effects of a witch's curse?
Not necessarily, no.
Is the case of the young man in Africa an isolated one?
Well, there are many others, well attested. The best established of them are detailed in Chapter 10 of my book, Powers of Darkness.
I see. Thank you very much, Father Garmondsway. Wait there, please.
Father Garmondsway, in the reliably attested cases of death by cursing of which you speak, is there by any chance one involving a white man?
A white man? You mean a European?
Oh, I do beg your pardon. Perhaps I should have said Caucasian.
It's true, there seems little that can be firmly attested with Europeans.
Then perhaps we might be forgiven for thinking there was something cultural involved.
I don't follow.
Well, if only Africans, Asians, and Pacific Islanders can be said to have died as the result of cursing, then may we not justifiably conclude it is in fact something peculiar to Africans, Asians, and Pacific Islanders? So what then in the case of a European who is alleged to have died as the result of cursing?
But you've just stated that there is no such case.
Ah, but we seem to be being informed in this courtroom that we are in the presence of the first such case. But you and I know, Father, that this cannot be. Therefore, death must be related to other factors. Psychosomatic, autosuggestion.
I don't see that. Things can be assessed only as they happen.
Preferring the outlandish to the more probable explanation.
No.
Oh, come, Father, you're not telling us that Charles Laker's death was inflicted by a witch who derived her power from illicit traffic with old Horny?
I know nothing of the precise case you mention. I was speaking in the abstract.
Well, you made the devil sound singularly concrete. How does he look, incidentally? As in his best portraits, with tail and pitchfork?
I think I'd better treat that question with the contempt it deserves, don't you?
As you wish. Father, surely it's heretical Christianity, isn't it, to believe in a dual principle of good and evil?
Who on earth said anything about a dual principle of good and evil? Christian belief is that the devil is a fallen angel, created, dependent for existence on God, just like everything else in the universe, permitted to practice and perform only by God's good pleasure.
That's very odd, isn't it? I mean, if God is a good spirit, why does he permit an evil one to operate at all?
We don't really know enough about these things. There are mysteries involved, immense mysteries. The whole question of good and evil, the question of free will.
There are mysteries, all right, and far from the least is the fact that an otherwise highly intelligent man should ask the court to believe such unmitigated nonsense.
I saw that young man in Africa die. He didn't want to. I dare say Charles Laker didn't want to either. But they both did. Now, is that something a man does to himself? Take away his own life against his will?
Thank you, Father. No further questions.
No re-examination, my lord.
Thank you. You may leave the witness stand, Father Garmondsway.
That concludes the case for the prosecution, my lord.
Mr. Lotterby.
For my first witness, I call the defendant, Adelaide Vincent.
What is your religion?
I think I'd better affirm.
Please read aloud the words on this card.
I do solemnly, sincerely and truly declare and affirm that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
You are Adelaide Sarah Vincent, and you live at 40 in Crescent, Fulchester?
Yes,
Are you what is known as the maiden of a witch coven here in Fulchester?
I am.
For how long have you been the maiden?
For a period of 5 years.
How did you rise to this position, if that's the way to put it?
It isn't actually. You don't have to climb the ladder in witchcraft. There's no hierarchy as there is in organized religion. There are simply those who have studied the black arts and become proficient in them, and those who haven't. I came to live in Fulchester 5 years ago. I quite soon made contact with people who were interested in what I could do. The coven grew out of that.
I see. And how often does the coven meet, Miss Vincent?
Well, there are the Sabbats, the major feasts of the year. You've already heard about those. Sabbats are always held out in the open, but in secret places. Then there are other minor feasts, generally celebrating some sacred time or the feast of an ancient god. Some of those I hold in my home.
Anonymity is important as far as the members of the coven are concerned, isn't it?
Yes, one's true personality doesn't matter, only the one that one assumes. There's power in a name. Taking on the identity of a god or spirit attracts that influence toward you.
And secrecy about the coven's activities, that's imposed too, isn't it?
Well, secrecy is a most serious obligation. Betraying it can lead to consequences.
How else are you employed, Miss Vincent? How do you make a living?
I don't work, if that's what you mean. There's no need for that. Being maiden of the coven is enough to support me.
You mean the coven members make contributions towards your upkeep?
You could put it like that, yes.
Oh, well, is there not, in fact, a fee payable by all who join?
The men who join pay a fee. Ours is a coven of women. Our power is based on the female principle. The men pay something to support the women.
All the women?
Well, the assistants, yes, they get a little.
But the lion's share, that goes to the maiden.
Yes.
What sort of fees are payable?
Well, they cannot be less than £200. They can be as much as 1,000.
Considerable sums. Who decides exactly?
I do, according to whoever it might be.
And then are further monies payable?
Yes. £2 to £5 for minor feasts, up to 20 for Sabbats. And then if a member wants me to do something special for him, foretell the future or try to influence his personal destiny, then there are separate charges for that.
It all sounds like extremely lucrative business.
Oh, it is. It's not a crime to make money.
Miss Vincent, would it be true to say that that is the main reason you practice witchcraft, for the financial rewards it brings?
Well, Miss Vincent, you heard your counsel's question, didn't you?
Yes, it's true. I wouldn't bother with the whole damn stupid business if it weren't for the great amount of money it brings. I mean, I do need a great deal of money. I can get through large quantities of it.
Are you saying then that you don't actually believe in witchcraft, Miss Vincent, that it's all a pretense with you just to enlarge your bank balance?
It's as much nonsense as you ever heard put together in one dim-witted package. A mixture of supposition, credulity, wishful thinking.
But you have powers, surely. Well, it's been testified that you have. You can produce extraordinary effects. You can even conjure up the devil.
It's amazing how easy it is to have powers when you're among people who need to believe that you possess them. There have to be certain skills, of course. A few conjuring tricks, a little elementary astrology, and then a forceful personality. I don't wish to appear vain, but when I'm all dressed up and working at full strength, I do impress people as being a remarkably formidable female, a Lady Bracknell of the spells and philters.
Did you always think witchcraft a load of nonsense?
Oh, no. In the beginning, I was genuinely attracted to the idea of the occult. It seemed logical to believe that there should be invisible forces behind what one could actually see and touch. Dark powers. But I hadn't been involved with it long when I realized what a calculated hoax it all was. There are no such things as spirits, good or bad. The whole system is designed to play upon people's gullibility. Suppose I mumble a few words of prophecy at a coven. Or then the next day, perhaps they find that some of the words of the spirit message are coming true. Or they may have an unexpected run of good luck. They think that I've done it and are overcome with awe.
Have you never in your life as a witch produced the genuine effect?
Never once.
Miss Vincent, can you curse the life of another?
The fact about poor Charles Laker was that he was really gullibility personified. I had grave doubts about letting him enter the coven in the first place, but his money was a very healthy shade of green. You see, when a member betrays the coven as he did, well, then he has to be cursed. It is required. It follows. But I never heard of anybody in the present day actually suffering any ill effects from being cursed by a witch. Charles must have been one of those rare people who obligingly swallow it all. He was slightly deranged, of course. And all those accusations he made about sex orgies at these sabbats, they're quite fanciful. I know Anne Silker said exactly the same thing, but as to her...
True witch! She knows that! She has great power!
Silk, you must sit down and keep quiet. I shall have to ask you to leave the court.
She killed Charles Laker because he wants to tell the truth, and now because I tell the truth, she'll try and kill me!
I just don't know what to do with myself. Just don't know what to do with myself. I'm so used to doing everything with you, planning everything for two, and now that we're through, I just don't know what to do with my time. I'm so lonesome for you, it's a crime.
I wish to make it quite clear that I will not tolerate hysterical behavior during this trial. If Miss Silk is unwell, she will receive medical attention. For the rest, I must ask the jury to disregard this interruption as unwarranted. Thank you, Mr. Lotterby. You may continue.
Thank you, my lord. So, Miss Vincent, these sex orgies simply never took place.
No, the whole idea is preposterous.
Sex has absolutely nothing to do with your ceremonials.
Well, you have to remember that the whole basis of nature religion, and that's all that witchcraft is response to the forces around you. The earth, the sun and the stars, and so forth. Well, there are forces within one, too, powerful ones. One of these is sex.
Are you saying, then, that at your ceremonial, certain individuals might perhaps choose to seek sexual experience on their own account, and you wouldn't prevent them from doing so?
That is exactly the way to put it. Mind you, would expect them to observe a certain discretion about what they were doing. Sex in public is no part of witchcraft activities. That's why it's ridiculous to talk of orgies.
But Anne Silk testified to them quite categorically, Miss Vincent, and Charles Laker contacted a journalist to make the fact of them public.
I have known of Anne Silk's jealousy of me for some time. She does want to take over the coven, and that is why she lies. Charles Laker thought that by practicing witchcraft he would improve his business or something, that he'd suddenly find himself wealthy.
And what did he find?
He found himself poorer by the amount of his admission fee, without even the opportunity of being able to recoup his losses. So then he began to take against those things he particularly disliked, most obviously the nudism.
Nudism?
Well, nakedness is an essential part of witchcraft ceremonial. It signifies surrender to nature. You start the Sabbat clothed, but later on disrobe.
And Charles Laker was offended by this?
He was horrified by it. He really was a most repressed little man. But something happened then that can only be described as the most appalling luck. A member of the coven offered him sex.
Offered him sex? What was the outcome of that?
Well, Charles ran screaming to the nearest newspaper to hold a scandal for him. You see, not only was he offered sex, which shocked him, but he was offered it for money.
You're saying one of the assistants in your coven, suggested that Charles Laker should enjoy her favours and that he should pay her for them. Is that usual?
Well, no, far from it. I was astounded when I heard. I had no idea we had anything like that going on in our midst. Well, apparently, there had been other instances. And the whore in question was Anne Silk.
My lord, I object. Even if this accusation were true, which I have every reason to doubt, it has surely nothing to do with this case.
On the contrary, my lord, it is entirely relevant. It will show that Miss Anne Silk had an additional motive for fabricating her story of sex orgies, that of covering up her own private activities.
But Charles Laker told the journalist Terry Saxon of these orgies quite independently, Mr. Lotterby.
But Charles put it like that to Saxon because he was emotionally upset at the time, my lord. And then Anne Silk took up the cry to get at me.
I see. I'm anxious to avoid a situation, Miss Vincent, in which the court has to trust either your word or that of Miss Silk. Now, Mr. Lotterby, am I to take it that, like the prosecution, you've been unable to find any other members of the coven to come forward and give their evidence?
The cloak of anonymity has proved impossible to penetrate, my lord.
But I must say once again that I find it very difficult to believe that Miss Vincent couldn't know the identities of the members of a circle of which she is the leader.
Miss Vincent, perhaps you could speak to his lordship's point.
From the beginning with me, people are known only by pseudonyms. The object of that is precisely to avoid the possibility of public confrontation, such as this trial. People still have some odd ideas about witchcraft. I can't run the risk of betraying my members. I didn't know Charles Laker as Charles Laker till all this began, and Anne Silk has always been Demeter to me, nothing more.
So Charles Laker was simply hysterical in speaking to Terry Saxon of sex orgies at the Grand Sabbaths.
Yes.
And he was brought to this state of mind by what can only be called soliciting on the part of Anne Silk.
Yes.
No, it lies!
Miss Silk, I must impress on you that the court cannot be responsible for you. I mean, if you insist on remaining when you are obviously not well, that's your own business. But there will be no more interjections. Now, is that understood?
On the night of November the 1st, Miss Vincent, did you conduct a certain ceremony at your home?
Yes. I conducted a ceremony whereby I cursed the life of Charles Laker for betraying the coven. I was assisted by Anne Silk.
Yes, this must have been for you a quite meaningless ceremony.
Oh, yes, it was. But it was necessary that the coven should know it had been done. Of course, I didn't for a moment imagine it could possibly do him any harm. It was quite extraordinary what happened. I couldn't believe it when I heard.
Thank you, Miss Vincent. No further questions.
So, Miss Vincent, you are a practicing witch who doesn't believe a single article of the witch's creed.
So to say, yes.
You think it's all nonsense and wishful thinking, and you only bother with it because it happens to make you a lot of money.
Yes.
And it does make you a lot of money, doesn't it? Or rather, it did until today.
I'm sorry.
Well, as a result of your fearless confession here in court, you can hardly return to being maiden of the coven, can you? Your honesty will have had the effect of cutting you off without a penny.
I am on oath to tell the truth here, I believe. Is not that the priority?
Ah, capital sentiments, Miss Vincent, capital sentiments. But let's talk about that income that you've sacrificed. Very substantial, £200 to £1,000 joining fee. Up to £5 for a minor festival and 20 for a Sabbath, and all this for nothing whatsoever in return.
Well, not nothing, no. I went through all the forms conscientiously, and I conducted all the ceremonies.
Yes, but you created no genuine effects, did you? You tell us you made no real magic.
No, that's true.
Absolutely no end to human gullibility, is there? A touch of amateur conjuring here, you assure us, a smattering of astrology there. Just what were people paying these huge sums of money for? Haven't you rather understated the role of sex in witchcraft, Miss Vincent?
No.
It's really little more than dancing naked around an open fire like a lot of abandoned girl guides. Oh, apart from a few private arrangements on the side who concern no one but the couples involved.
Well, that's how it is, however you try to garble it. We're not afraid of sex. We don't make it the be-all and end-all.
So Anne Silk is lying, then?
Yes, of course she is, to discredit me.
And Charles Laker was making everything up, talking out of a crippling repression.
Yes.
But all the literature on witchcraft throughout the ages has stressed the importance of sex in the ceremonials, Miss Vincent. You don't deny that, surely?
Most of the literature on witchcraft since the Middle Ages is completely biased. Do you know what the witch has been in European society? The scapegoat. So-called respectable people have always had their little bits of sex on the side, but society considered it evil. Therefore, a victim had to be found, someone on whom the rest could heap all their sins, the witch.
An interesting theory.
The sorry truth.
Have you ever had sex with any of the male members of your coven at a Sabbath, Miss Vincent?
I'm not going to answer that kind of question.
Well, your refusal may be taken as assent.
It comes out of a sick mind.
Only the men in your coven, it seems, pay. The women are all assistants. Girls of the house might be a better interpretation. Set a splendid example by the madam.
My lord, these inferences are entirely unjustified.
Not necessarily. I think we see the true picture now. Miss Vincent controls what might be described as an esoteric brothel, where, under the cloak of natural religion, men who are so disposed can come and experience the delights of group sex. And that is what they pay the astronomical fees for, and that is why none of them can be found to give evidence today. And that is why Charles Laker was cursed, because he knew the truth and was about to tell it.
My lord, is counsel for the prosecution to be allowed to make speeches to the court like this?
Well, Mr. Lotterby, while being grateful to you for being reminded of the rules of evidence, I must say, on balance, I think Miss Vincent should answer that.
My sex life is my own business. I don't sell myself, but obviously I take lovers if and when it pleases me. As to the rest, it's absurd. I discovered Anne Silk was taking money for sex, and I was deeply shocked. Nothing like that had happened in our coven before, never.
Very well, Miss Vincent. Let's come to the cursing ceremony of Charles Laker. You testified this was a meaningless ceremony for you, quite without significance.
Yes.
And that the last thing you expected was that anything would have an effect.
The last thing.
Yet that can hardly be the truth, can it, Miss Vincent? For even if you didn't believe in your powers in the matter, you surely did know how susceptible Charles Laker was. Terry Saxon has told us how he saw Laker at your knees, on his knees, begging you not to curse him. And you'd only threatened to do so then.
Well, I can't help that. It had to be gone through with. What people choose to do to themselves is no concern of mine.
To do to themselves?
Yes, to themselves. Charles Laker. Saxon was cursed too, wasn't he? It didn't affect him.
Ah, but you knew full well it wouldn't get the same effect there. Did you not curse Terry Saxon in order to detract from the attention you knew the effect would have on Laker?
What does that mean?
Well, have you ever heard of something called transfer hypnosis, Miss Vincent?
No, I haven't.
Come, it's your stock in trade. Isn't it the suggested scientific basis of such curses as actually have the effect?
Curses never have an effect.
Well, Father Garmondsway seems to think they do, and he's had wide experience in the field. Of course, you do have to have the right subject, one sympathetic to hypnosis in general, but then you have told us that people found you a very formidable female. Charles Laker particularly, perhaps?
Well, that's absurd. And even if it were true, it's nothing to do with me. I simply went through the motions at the cursing ceremony.
No curse of yours has ever had any effect in the past?
No.
You yourself earlier drew attention to the fact that you were on oath, Miss Vincent. Will you now formally swear, before whatever gods you hold sacred, that you have told no lie here today?
Your name is Daniel Rocco, and you are a medical practitioner living at 24A Argyle Court, London.
I am.
Were you at one time a conjure man, a priest of the voodoo cult?
I was. In my youth in Jamaica, I was much attracted to the idea of magic. I studied with a famous practitioner. His name was Jimbo Baines. And after a while, I began to see the stupidity of what I was doing. Old Jimbo was a complete fraud. I turned to medicine. I've written a number of papers on demonic possession, cursing, spells, trances, and so forth, which has been published in scientific journals in England and the United States.
I see. Well, we should be concerned here only with cursing, Dr. Rocco. Now, can you tell us, please, in your view, does cursing actually produce an effect?
Well, something produces any effect, but it certainly isn't the cursing.
Certainly isn't.
No. I've seen healthy men lie down and die, all because they believe some fool of a witch doctor has put a death curse on them. There was one case. It was what finally turned me from voodoo. Of an old woman in a village who had received a message that her husband, who was separated from her, had put a death curse on her. She died. There was nothing anyone could do. Then it was discovered that the fellow who had brought the message had got the name wrong. There was another old woman also estranged from her husband who had been cursed. But the first one died anyway.
I see. Did this event lead you to any conclusions about cursing, Doctor?
Together with some other instances, yes. It became to me clear that the motive power for the operation of the curse comes from within the subject, not from anything outside, strictly from its inside. Personal dreads, fears, worries, etc.
In other words, death is brought about psychosomatically.
Positively, in every case.
Is this Is this the same thing as what is called transfer hypnosis?
Oh, no. For transfer hypnosis, there must be an agent. I am saying there doesn't really need to be any agent at all. It isn't even necessary for the witch doctor to pronounce the curse, only for the subject to believe he has pronounced it. Anyway, how is it possible to bring about death by hypnotic means if I hypnotize you? I can't make you do anything you wouldn't do in your normal state. I can't make you rob a bank unless you're a natural-born bank robber, so how can I make you die? Most people don't want to die, do they? It doesn't make sense, it's all, well, mumbo-jumbo.
These personal dreads, fears, and worries you speak of as causing the subject to fall ill, Doctor. Now, are these of a particular nature?
Yes, there are invariably dreads and fears of the world unseen, the spirit world. But if you don't believe in the spirit world, then it's pretty hard for you to be affected by cursing.
Well, it's been suggested to this court that a spirit world does in fact exist, and that there is even such a being as the devil.
Well, when it comes to spirits, I take mine in a glass with a little soda. But old Jimbo Baines is a reckon he had conjured up the devil from time to time. It's funny, but I just couldn't seem to see him.
Thank you, Doctor. That's all.
Dr. Rocco, not all medical men, or men who have studied black magic, seem to share your contempt for the world of spirits, do they?
Well, what people believe or don't believe, it's no concern of mine.
My meaning is that you can't brush away soberly held views by making fun of them. However, considering your notions on the mechanics of cursing, if it's true, as you suggest, that a person activates it all himself, then why does the agent bother to pronounce the curse at all? Why does he not just pass the word around that he has done so?
But in the majority of cases, the agent does believe he's responsible, you see. That's the complication.
And if he believes he's responsible, he is responsible.
I'm sorry?
Well, surely whatever it is that is activated it is activated from an understanding received from outside. One simply doesn't wake up one morning and find that a death wish is taking over. One has to be under the impression that one has been cursed.
Of course.
And isn't that really the same thing as transfer hypnosis, Doctor? The agent is quite truly bending the subject to his will by merely letting him know he's been cursed.
But how about the case I quoted where the wrong person got the message he'd been cursed? The right one didn't die later, you know, when the error had been discovered. So the transfer hypnosis takes an odd direction there.
Precisely, Dr. Rocco, but then did not the woman who believed she'd been cursed actually die?
Yes.
Thank you, Doctor, that's all.
No re-examination, my lord.
You may leave the witness box, Dr. Rocco.
That concludes the case for the defense, my lord.
Learned counsel, before we proceed to the summing up, there are one or two matters on which I am not completely satisfied. One of the cornerstones of the defense's case is that the witness Anne Silk is accused of offering herself for money to members of the coven. Now, this was not put to her during her cross-examination. Therefore, I'd like to put that to Miss Silk now. I do not feel satisfied that the jury has all the evidence available to them for making a decision. Miss Silk, you will re-enter the witness box. Miss Silk, I repeat, I am ready to call an adjournment if you feel you should seek medical aid again.
A doctor can do no good.
Well, now, Miss Silk, I have particularly to ask you whether there is any part of your previous testimony which you would like to change. And remember, you are still on oath.
No, I want to change nothing.
You still say, do you, that the grand Sabbaths were in fact sexual orgies into which the women were forced to enter by Miss Vincent?
Yes.
And you say this under oath?
Yes.
Now, as to the testimony of Miss Vincent that in fact at the Sabbaths you offered sexual favors to various males present, including Charles Laker, and demanded money for the same.
It's a lie.
You have never, as a member of the coven, indulged in any form of prostitution?
No.
Thank you. you may leave the witness box.
Members of the jury, there is only one real question to ask yourselves today, and that is Adelaide Vincent responsible for the death of Charles Laker? I submit that the answer to this question is yes. You may think, perhaps, that Adelaide Vincent genuinely is a witch with remarkable powers who put a curse on Charles Laker and he sickened and died. In that case, you have no problem. But you may be in doubts about the reality of witches and evil spirits. In this case, I ask you to remember that Charles Laker does not seem to have shared your doubts. And Adelaide Vincent knew this and calculatedly played on his doubts and fears. This amounts to responsibility for his death, ladies and gentlemen. This amounts to manslaughter. I ask you to find the defendant guilty as charged.
My lord, members of the jury, fortunately, we don't live in the 16th century. The name of our city is not Salem, and we don't hold court under the Witchfinder General. So we won't waste time weighing up imponderables. There are no true witches, there are no effective curses. All that is superstition, pure and simple. There is, however, autosuggestion. Now, you have heard how it is possible for persons of a certain type to kill themselves out of an excessive sense of dread. Now, perhaps this is what happened to Charles Laker. Perhaps he believed he was cursed and died as a result. Perhaps. The prosecution certainly has not proved that this happened. And even if it had, it wouldn't affect my client, because Adelaide Vincent is a self-confessed charlatan. She had no reason to believe that Charles Laker could have been affected in any way at all by her ridiculous curse. Now, it seems, members of the jury, that Miss Anne Silk would have you believe that she is, at this moment, suffering from a malevolent spell placed on her by the defendant. Well, I'm sure you will treat this performance by a part-time actress with the contempt it deserves. Ladies and gentlemen, you have no alternative but to find Adelaide Vincent not guilty.
Members of the jury, now falls to me to direct you as to the law in this case. First, I must remind you that the prosecution must prove their case beyond reasonable doubt, and if they fail to do that, then you must bring in a verdict of not guilty. Now, the central issues in this case of manslaughter are as follows. First and foremost, and most importantly, the prosecution must show that the defendant caused the death of Charles Laker. Now, it's for you to decide what caused his condition at the time of death. Whether, as the defense suggests, it was something which came purely from inside him, or whether, as the prosecution suggests, Miss Vincent does indeed possess these maleficent powers of which we've heard so much during this case. But even if you are satisfied of that, you must also be satisfied that when she, as she has confessed, cursed his life, she knew that what she was doing might or could cause his death. Now, if, on the other hand, you accept her statement that the spell was nothing more than a harmless, meaningless ceremony, well, then you must bring in a verdict of not guilty. Now, as to the evidence of Miss Silk, I must direct you to ignore her accusation that she is being cursed by Miss Vincent. You will now retire, please, and reconsider your verdict.
All stand. Members of the jury, will your foreman please stand? Just answer this question, yes or no. Have you reached a verdict upon which you are all agreed?
Yes.
Do you find the accused Adelaide Vincent guilty or not guilty of manslaughter?
Not guilty.